Welcome to this Weight of Fire video. We're going to do something different today. I'm Andy Sharp from Weight of Fire, and I've got my good friend joining us over a video chat because we are in lockdown. This is Ian Davies, the UK Deadzone Champion 2019, so current UK champion. Yeah, pretty big deal, really, aren't you? Pretty big deal.
If anyone asks, I started this whole thing so I could keep my title longer than a year.
Well, the pandemic, you ate the bat.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is we are all in lockdown in the UK at present. So we can't meet up, we can't play games, but we still want to talk about Deadzone. So Ian came up with this idea actually, and we'll run with it. So if it's a disaster, it's on his side.
Oh, hang on. You're blaming me for this.
Totally, absolutely. So yeah, we're going to do a little series of, we're going to call it Deadzone Pandemic, just because, you know, it's a pandemic and all. And we're just going to do sort of chats, really, for a little bit of time about all things Deadzone. It seems perfectly reasonable, I think, doesn't it? I like Deadzone.
And enjoyable. Desirable.
Enjoyable for who? I mean, post your comments below. Or don't, please don't. Yeah, so I think, yeah, we just want there's lots of reason to do this really, is because obviously we want to talk about a game that we really like, and there's lots of new people coming into the Deadzone environment at the moment, rediscovering or discovering this game for the first time. So we thought it'd be a good opportunity to pretty much start from the beginning again, as if you were a new player, and we'll build up as we go on week by week. Not guaranteeing how often we do these, but and try and sort of build up the sort of our own thoughts, having played the game for quite a long time now. How long have you been playing, Ian? 4 or 5 years?
I kickstarted version 1.
Did you?
And played through the next campaign with someone. So
right, yeah. So I got in Deadzone Kickstarter 2, which is probably about 2016, I think 2016, probably 2015, and delivered in 2016, I would think. It's a good 4 or 5 years. Yeah, so it's about 4 years old, the game in sort of in your hands, I think. And I was looking for something new at the time. I was looking for something science fiction wise. I'd been playing Kings of War. That was my first intro into Mantic games. And then I thought, oh, that looks pretty smart. Was excited by the space rats, of course, best faction, if anyone wanted to know. And so yeah, and since then I've been playing it pretty steadily, really. It's been great, actually. Really enjoyed it. So you played in version 1, so that was a little older, and that's probably what, 20? Well,
I think that was second half 20. I think it was 2014 when it actually got released, because I've got a feeling I went to the Mantic Open Day to pick it up with a lot of other people. I think that was 2014, end of 2014.
Yeah.
So that was when I lived in Oxford. So I played with my friend Simon, and he took on the Plague, and I took the Enforcer. I'd paint them all up, but we played against each other, and he ruined me with the Plague Swarm that was just almighty in version 1.
Yeah. Now, I don't know a lot about version 1 actually, because I never actually played it, but it was very different from version 2, and there were some balance issues between some factions, certainly. I mean, the Rebs were notoriously difficult to play with in version 1. They got improved for version 2 and were playable. But then in version 2, I think it's fair to say that the core rulebook release of the Veermin was suboptimal, and whilst they weren't atrocious, they were hard to win with against most of the other factions. So I guess if you were to sort of say to someone who had had their version 1 Kickstarter under their bed for the last 6 years or so, which
I think could be quite a lot of people.
Yeah, I reckon there are. Yeah, definitely.
Because that Kickstarter was huge. There are thousands of people with this thing.
Yeah, it was very successful. Yeah,
play games.
And the thing is that the models are still really good, and all the terrain is fantastic. Yeah. And there was loads of terrain in the original box, more I think than in the second available core set now. Actually, I think there was more terrain.
I've been building one of the original Plague models only this evening because I've still got loads of them, and I need more.
Yeah, and they're not bad. I mean, they're not as good as the hard plastic ones, but they're not bad. In fact, I actually prefer the dogs randomly, even though they do look a bit odd. Some of the models from
they're
that,
supposed to look odd.
yeah, some of the models from that first Kickstarter actually haven't been replaced anyway. So, you know, the leapers for the plague enforcers have been replaced, but the ones that from that original Kickstarter are still perfectly good, you know. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because not everything has been changed up. Actually, the 1A is still the same, Plague Lord is still the same, and stuff like that. It's only really
Plague
the
Lord.
3As.
Oh, it's the 3As and the Plague Zombies are the plastic sprues for the plague.
Yeah.
That sprue includes the 3A sprue includes dogs, but all your big Gribblies, so the 1A, the 2s,
Terraton.
the Terratons, the Swarms. It's all still the same models, but they're still great. That Plague 1A Lord is, for me, the most iconic model in the game. It is Deadzone.
No, it's really good. It's still a really smart model, actually. And you see people use it every now and again in other things as well, don't you? Either in Kings of War or something, or in other science fiction games. And it still is pretty striking because it's such a great model and such a big model as well. It's really good. Yeah. So, so going back to, if you had your first edition Kickstarter under the bed, sorry, you can't really, well, you could play with the rules, of course, but if you wanted to play against someone who's playing with current one, you would have to pretty much throw out the rule book, wouldn't you? But all of the models that you have are
you
going to
could
be
burn it and video it.
You get about 3 watches.
The game from version 1 to version 2 was quite a big change. We're not talking little tweaks here. It was a substantial
massive change, wasn't it?
Rewrite. The basics there of opposed dice rolls is still there, and you're still on an 8x8 grid with cubes. But the way the abilities worked and the way the introduction of command dice was a big step in the game, and a brand new rulebook, which did change it up quite a lot.
Yeah, and so in version 1, you had this sort of, to kill models, you had an escalating and de-escalating morale stroke aggression sort of mechanic, which seemed quite, I never played it, but I read the rules, obviously, and it seemed quite nice. But I'm sure there are some advocates who will say it was fantastic, but I think a lot of people found it quite difficult, actually. So the version 2 changeover stripped that out as one of the key mechanics. Plus, missions got tidied up and were a little bit more balanced and things like that, whereas you used to have missions with one of you would have a mission, the other person would have a different mission, and sometimes if you got these missions that did different things, it would skew the game quite widely, I believe. So those sort of things got stripped out. So there's a little bit more balance across the board. But you're absolutely right. The way the models actually move on the table, the way you fight, the way you shoot, the basic principles of an elite strike force with an objective goes in on this particular map and does its thing, have stayed the same throughout both editions, haven't they? And all the terrain, all the models are still the same. Anything you had model-wise or terrain-wise is still completely valid now. So there's nothing lost except for the cards.
I think streamlining is the word.
Yeah.
That there was just a few more modifiers. The damage resolution was much more like Dreadball. So you had doubling and tripling of successes to give you levels of damage caused, whereas it's been streamlined now. Just a number of extra successes you get over the defender is the number of points damage caused. Streamlined.
Yeah, and it does make it much simpler now because you've got the opposed rolls, the DH. You roll yours, they roll theirs. You roll them simultaneously. You can see instantly what the result of the fight is. None of this slight maths sort of required. And to be honest, the doubling and tripling, it isn't difficult, but it's something that your mind isn't instinctively doing, I think, in normal life. You don't go and buy some groceries. It requires an extra step. And double and triple stuff. Do you? Oh, okay, right. I bought 5 bananas, so therefore I've got triple times 47 pence. You know, you just don't do it.
It's an extra step of thought before you get to the result, and it sort of takes away from the instantaneousness of the game and the excitement of it. You want to roll dice, look, and go yes or no.
Yeah, and is one of the beauties. And that is one of the beauties of having the dice results right there. Everyone, you know what you need to get. Your opponent knows what you need to get, and if once you've been playing a little while, you both know what each other need to get as well, and you can literally see them straight away. And because you're never rolling more than say about 6 dice tops, isn't it? Really. Then it's very visible, isn't it? The result isn't. It's not like say
Instant
Kings of War where
gratification.
you've got 30 dice and you have to like pull them all out or something like that. You know, you see it straight away, and you say that adds to the cinematic sort of feeling of yes, I've done it, because I can see straight away that I've beaten you or you've beaten me, whatever it be, and so you can cheer or hold your head in your hands, whichever the two it be. So yeah, it's so fairly big changes from version 1 to version 2, and I think version 2 wasn't as successful a Kickstarter as version 1. So I think there are a lot of people who had version 1. Maybe they played it, maybe they didn't play it. But like a lot of Kickstarters, particularly then, it was in the heyday, really, or right at the beginning of Kickstarters being massive as well. It's sort of in a bit more of a down now. The splurge of Kickstarters is sort of diminishing a little bit these days. It's still
Just
going
ignore
to
Frosthaven.
well, there are still some that do massive, but there's so many now, aren't there? That's the thing. I think it's hard. It's a harder market to succeed in, I think. Whereas, you know, that one was very successful. So I suspect there are a lot of people who never actually got around to playing it. So you've not certainly lost anything. And coming back to version 2, though, it is a very different game. So what would you need to play version 2 of Deadzone if you didn't go out and buy the version 2 core set, or just download the rulebook from Mantic Games? Because we haven't even mentioned who makes Deadzone yet, but it's Mantic Games. So if you go to manticgames.com, you can actually get the Deadzone version 2 rulebook now for free as a digital download.
Hit the free rules tab at the top of the main page, and you'll find in the free rules section. And that's the full version 2 rulebook, which has all the rules, most of the current special abilities in the game. It explains your dice, your movement, your combat. Yeah,
and I think really, what else would you need apart from the updated rulebook?
Command dice would be the first one. So they're explained in the rulebook. It's a 6-sided dice with an extra dice, an extra move, an extra shoot, an extra fight, an extra activation, and a mantic splat.
What? And you do need them, but you don't need them as well, because this is 6-sided dice. So you can either have the 6-sided.
You could improvise if you
dice.
want to give it a go.
Yeah, so you could just take a D6 and say, okay, a 1 is the extra activation, a 2 is the extra shoot, a 3 is the extra fight, whatever it be, and just like scribble in your book down the side. And so that works absolutely fine. There we go. Oh, look at him. He's all prepared.
Yep.
There you go.
So yeah, you could just number these 1 to 6.
Yeah.
But the dice provided by Mantic certainly make it easier.
And the dice are very nice. And what I do is I'll roll my command dice and I'll leave them lined up right. If I'm filming a game, it will be in the dice tray, or beside the dice tray, so that you always know, and you both know, you and your opponent know all along what each other's got available. Because I might think, okay, I'm not going to do this because I know he's got that until he's spent it, and then I'll do this. And that's a bit different from a lot of games. So a lot of games use a mechanic for resource utilization inside a game. So another Mantic game would be Vanguard, for instance, Kings of War Vanguard, where it has these power dice, but they're effectively points. They're not quite the same as this. So these can't be reutilized for other things. What you roll, you get 1 chance to reroll, but what you roll is what you've got.
You're rolling abilities, not just points to spend.
Exactly. So there are some advantages to that and some disadvantages, of course, because if you get stuff that you can't use, that doesn't suit your army, well, it's wasted, which is a big downside. But on the plus side, it makes it really quick. There's less thinking about what's required. Okay, it's like, you don't have to do that. Oh, okay, I've got 2 things I want to do. That's going to cost me 3 points. Okay, I've got 3 points, but if I do this one now, then I can't do that one later. You don't have to do that mathematical sort of planning out.
Yeah.
And
that goes for working out what your opponent's going to do as well.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking at where you are and where the objectives are and where your opponent's models are, you're thinking, right, if he uses his extra move dice to get over to that objective, I'm going to have to try and get over there or knock him off it. If he's got no extra move dice, you know he can't make it that far, so you can just sneak in and take it for yourself.
Yeah,
it's little things like that, working out how the round's going to progress in terms of what you can do and what your opponent can do. and looking at what possibilities he's got in front of him. It's not just a case of, well, he could do anything because he's got a bunch of points. It's like he's got this and this result.
And
So I've got to bear that in mind, but it's not just a mystery.
Yeah. And what that does, I think, and why it's really good in Deadzone, perhaps more useful in Deadzone in, say, a bigger game or a more fluid game, is because Deadzone is a very compact game. It has this grid structure. It plays on a 2x2 mat. It's quite small. It's
2 foot by 2 foot.
Yeah, so I guess it's a similar sort of size, a bit bigger than Kill Team, for instance. So it's a very small, almost coffee table size game, actually. But it's certainly not a beer and pretzels game. I hate that term because it sort of denigrates the game, because the game actually is really, really good. And beer and pretzels makes you think that, well, I'm having a beer now, but it makes it feel like, oh, I'll just do it at the end of something else I prefer to have done. So well, actually, no, I'd always prefer to play Deadzone.
You'll get more out of it if you focus on what you're doing and really, really get into it. Yeah.
It's fine.
I mean, I always describe it, because it's on an 8x8 grid, I always describe it as it's like chess, but in 3 dimensions with aliens and guns.
It's a terrible way of describing
it. It's a brilliant way of describing
the reason that's a terrible
exactly what it is.
You described it terribly by saying it's like chess. It may have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. However, it's still dull.
But there's similarities though. There's still similarities because you're not using a tape measure. Every unit has a certain number of spaces it can move. Yeah, which is like chess.
And that does make it really, really slick and quick. And that means that you and I, we play quite a lot. But we've played the game a huge amount. We've played each other a lot as well. So if we play a game, we're usually done in 30 minutes max, maybe 40. And that's not because it's a quick game. That's because there's a lot of tactical decisions, but we're making them relatively quickly because we know the game so well because we've been playing it. But even if you are brand new, game of Deadzone is not going to take much more than an hour. And that one of the beauties of it, you can get through a couple of games of an evening really easily if you want to. Which makes it good for tournaments as well.
Start off at 100 points, and you're going to have 5, 6, 7 models each.
Yeah.
So it's not too difficult.
Yeah, and even looking up rules and those tactical sort of things, or should I do this, shouldn't I do that? With the smaller points values, dead easy. Really easy, because you're not bringing the big fancy stuff anyway. All the stuff's going to be fairly similar in its style, because it's all the troops. I think Deadzone, talking about the style of it. It's important to recognise there that you said about no tape measures. The pattern of a Deadzone table is quite unique, actually, in the gaming field. It is this cube structure. You've got this 3x3 grid, so 8x8 3-inch cubes, and they're 3-inch cubes on the horizontal and they're 3-inch cubes on the vertical if you build your terrain up using the mounted terrain, which is a little bit of a barrier possibly, because you can't just grab, if say you come from Kill Team or something like that, you can't just grab your 40k terrain and bring on there. You can still use it, but it doesn't quite fit perfectly. So that is a little bit of a hindrance if you're coming in new, that you do need the sort of mantic stuff. Having said that, you can be incredibly inventive in how you design your tables, and I use a load of other stuff that is non-mantic to dress my tables, particularly with large amounts of scatter and stuff like that from all sorts of different companies, and you can really make it look quite good. But you do need that sort of acknowledge that basic bit of the mat and the terrain does have to be in that set style, but it does make the game so much quicker because it's all the same. And so you don't need a tape measure out. You literally go cube to cube to cube, and shooting is also based on ranges for shooting is also based on the cubes. It does mean that everything's very visible. There's no quibbling about, oh, are you in range? Because you didn't measure from the edge of the base, you measured from somewhere else. Like, it's in range because it's a cube. You're in that cube.
Yeah.
My range goes to that cube.
Yep. I mean, if you use the Battlezone scenery, because it fits in the 3x3 cubes, it makes counting the cubes for range and for movement a bit more intuitive. If you're using more freeform shapes, then you need to look more carefully where the grid is on the base map. But it's still perfectly doable.
Yeah, I think I still get it wrong sometimes with my Veermin rocket launchers, but never mind. Maybe I've cheated a few people. So we mentioned about the things you'd need to transfer over from version 1 to version 2 before we got a bit sidetracked there. But we said about the core rulebook, but actually you do need something else as well, because the game has evolved a lot in the course of, there he is, on cue. The game's evolved a lot over the course of the last few years. So the Deadzone core rulebook was valid for about 2 years or so, maybe 2.5.
Yep.
And then there was a supplement, these command protocols supplements that you're showing there, Ian. First one was called Outbreak, which massively changed the list, brought them all back in line with each other, really updated some of the factions, but just sort of balanced everything. After a couple of years of playing, there was a lot of information as to what was good, what wasn't so good. And then last year, July 2019, Escalation came out, which we were just showing then. And that's about 120 pages, a chunky old softback, really.
Yeah, a bit 128, yeah.
Yeah. And that not only updates all the factions again, everything pre-printed, so you don't need to buy Deadzone Outbreak, you just need to get Deadzone Escalation, and you've got all of the factions there, plus some new factions, because you've got the Nameless in there, which is a new, they were new in Outbreak actually, weren't they? But they're in there, and then some sub-factions as well. So we've got some sub-factions of Maison Labs and the Vault Chasers, and a whole bunch of other things as well, including how to use mercenaries, how to play bigger games with 2x2 mats and things like that, how to have interactive terrain, so scenery that actually does stuff rather than just is a passive dressing, as it were, for the table. So you've got ammunition lockers that you can actually raid, you've got terminals that you can actually hack and look stuff up on the internet and wipe your browser history afterwards. And and what else is in there? Loads of stuff, isn't there? Loads of stuff.
Yeah, there is loads of stuff.
Yeah, it really is a big thought, and that will probably last for a good couple of years. I think that one. I don't see there being another command protocols for a while, because there is literally so much in there now.
It gives you so much to work with 8 basic scenarios, 4 tactical assets missions, 4 large-scale missions. It's got all the new items and abilities updated. It's got all these factions. What we're up to 10, 11? 11 factions.
Yeah, if you include the Maison Labs, I think, yeah. Which is pretty good, really.
Yes.
And all of those factions are quite unique, I'd say, in the style of them and the play style. There's quite a bit of... I don't think any faction plays that similarly to another, actually. You've got some proper aggro ones which need to get up in your grill very quickly. You've got some very shooty ones. You've got some melee heavy, and you've got some mixed bag ones as well. That sort of jack of all trades sort of factions as well. So I think there's, at the moment, there's quite a range of choice, isn't there? And you can even use some of the models between factions as well. So particularly the Maison Labs and the GCPS and Plague, there's a bit of mix across those ones, for instance. So you can get some utility, and some armies even use the same. So the Strider, for instance, is in 4 factions, I think. Is it 4?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Rebs, Enforcers, GCPS, Maison. Yeah, so you buy a Strider for, what are they, 15 quid? Something like that. And you can reutilize it in a number of different factions. So they're pretty smart from that point of view, I think. So yeah,
5 factions, Plague as well.
And Plague,
5 factions of Striders.
Yeah. So yeah, those are literally the only things you would need as a transferring over from version 1. So that is, you would need the rule book, the version 2 rule book, which you can get as a free download. Deadzone Escalation, which you can either buy for about £12.50, I think, or you can get it as a download for half price at the moment, which is what, £7, £6.50, something like that. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, £6.50, yeah.
And possibly some command dice.
Treat yourself.
Oh, go on, why not? You're putting an order in, aren't you?
Why not?
Might as well. Yeah. Cheap shipping at the minute as well. I don't know if they've got any command dice, actually. They might have run out, I think, at the minute. I think they have.
They're good. You know, you'll feel cheap just using random D6s. Treat yourself.
You feel cheap all the time, mate. So that's all you would need. And I guess, you know, that's the same as if you were coming in as a new player for version 2 for the first time. You're likely to be buying the core box set, I would suspect, which comes with...
It's recommended.
Yeah,
it's such good value, and it's got loads of useful bits, like it'll have command dice, it'll have scenery, it'll have a map, it'll have 2 factions in it, it's got the full hardbook rulebook, and a sheet of tokens, which is handy.
Yeah, so the only thing you would need, if you've got the core set, all you would need is the escalation supplement, and then you'd have everything. And the factions in the core set are Enforcers and
Forge Fathers and Enforcers.
Yeah. Which are both great hard plastic models. Really nice, actually. Really like the Forge Fathers. I've never liked Enforcers. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to put that out there. I'm a big fan of them.
Well, I feel the other way around. I started with Enforcers. They were my first faction, and still really love them. And Forge Fathers, never that fussed about. So there you go.
Is that high?
Something for everybody's taste. But we're brothers in love over vermin, though, aren't we?
Oh,
the
little faces.
They're space rats.
What's not to love, right?
What's not to like?
Yeah. No, Space Rats is where it's at. I mean, to be honest, if you're playing any other faction, you're playing wrong anyway. So, you know, it's acceptable what it is. Space Rats.
As long as you can get them out of their warren to play, then...
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, where do they live? Nests.
Oh, nests and burrows, not warrens. That's right.
Don't badgers live in burrows?
They live in sets. You can tell you're a human doctor, not much in theology.
Not a vet doctor.
Those people who have to study lots of species, not just one.
Fools. So I don't even study all of one species. I just study one gender. That's fine. I'm too lazy to even bother with both genders. I'm sorry, I'm a OBGYN or obstetrician if anyone's interested. So anyway, so we've talked enough about my profession. Thanks very much. Let's so we've talked about what you would need if you came from version 1 to version 2. If you're brand new, start with version 2, then congratulations, to be honest, because you found a perfect game.
Yeah, you made a brilliant decision.
Yeah, absolutely. All those years you've been messing around with other stuff. This is where you should have been. But it's time. Welcome. Where would you go, I guess, to get more information, apart from obviously Way of Fire? But where else could you go and get some sort of more information about how people are playing, what people are painting, just to feel more in the community sort of aspects of Deadzone?
Yep. Well, a good choice is Deadzone Fanatics on Facebook. There's lots of activity on the moment. People putting up models, people posting files. So in the file section, a lot of good stuff. If you search in the Facebook group, if you've got a particular question, want to look for something up because you can't quite understand something, trust me, every question you can think of has already been asked a dozen times. So use that search function. Don't just ask it again.
Not a reason not to ask it again, though, is it? No, but I mean, that always happens when you get an influx of people, and there has been a good influx of people recently, of new faces. There are always those questions that need to be asked when you turn up, and that's fine. The Facebook group for Deadzone Fanatics is a very welcoming place, actually. I don't think I've ever really seen any trouble in there at all, actually. And people are always very happy to sort of comment on what would be a good approach to what you want to model or what you want to paint, or just general queries about the rules, because there's always queries about rules, of course. So yeah, I mean, that's a great place to start. Obviously Mantic Games themselves, their website it doesn't really have much on there in the way of sort of files or support like that, but there's obviously the product, so you can have a good look around and see the design, sort of the official painting schemes and stuff like that. Plus,
you'll find the latest errata and FAQ in their free rules section.
Yeah, and also you'll also start to realise that Deadzone is set in a slightly larger universe than it first seems, in that they have two larger games called Firefight and Warpath, which are still set in the same world or universe, the Warpath universe. So you can see some of the larger things that don't appear on Deadzone tables there. So some of the vehicles.
If you want tanks, there are tanks.
Yeah, totally. And they're fantastic.
Flyers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really good kit.
They just don't fit into Deadzone cubes, annoyingly.
They're too big. They're too big.
They make great terrain, though. You could make them great terrain. And also Dreadball as well, which is their sort of futuristic sports game, which is set in the same world, but obviously a bit like, I guess, Blood Bowl in the Warhammer world. It's set in a sort of same world, but maybe a little bit parallel, because races that might be blowing the bejesus out of each other in your battlefield are happy to play a game with each other in this world. But it is all set in that same environment. So there's plenty of other stuff to sort of pick up around Deadzone just from the sales website, as it were.
I mean, there's a whole sliding scale, because you've got Deadzone, which is right in the middle. It's really a cross between a miniatures game and a board game because of its size and the compactness and the way it plays. If you go up in scale, you've got Firefight and Warpath, which is big tables, lots of big tanks and stuff, using your tape measure, rolling a lot of dice. If you go down the scale, you've got Dreadball, which really it's a board game with miniatures. It uses miniatures, but it's a board game essentially. And on down that bottom end of the scale, you've got Star Saga as well, which is dungeon crawler. Again,
I've forgotten about Star Saga.
Universe. Don't forget about Star Saga.
Despite it's sitting right next to me as I talk to you.
Star Saga is a brilliant buy as well, because you get a full board game in there. It's dungeon crawlers. You're going down corridors, you're opening doors, hacking terminals, and all that jazz. But you also get models in there that you can use in Deadzone. So you've got your Maison Labs soldiers and Aberration. Some mercs against there's some mercs in there. Yeah.
It is a really good game as well, and like I say, you get a fair bit of terrain, and a lot of those interactive terrain pieces we mentioned earlier on are actually from the Star Saga terrain. So there are sort of experiment cylinders, and there are armory sort of weapons racks. What else is there?
Tables, cupboards.
Terminals.
Big fat.
Yeah, loads of good stuff.
Which stuff that's good for decorating your scenery.
Yeah, totally. And that's particularly important in Deadzone, actually, because it relies on true line of sight. So if any part of my model and its base can see any part of your model and its base, then you can draw a line of sight to it. And if you draw a line of sight, then you can shoot if you've got a ranged weapon. So being able, and there is a significant benefit from being able to see every part of a model. So basically you roll 3 dice as standard, and then if you see every part of a model, you roll 5. So I mean, that's that's a huge benefit.
Brad Trousers time, that's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to keep your models hidden to some extent, not completely, but at least partially hidden all the time. So scatter terrain becomes a really important thing, and certainly when you start playing, because there's not so much in the core sets, you're often quite limited on scattered terrain. So shooting can be quite brutal, but when you start advancing in your playing style, I mean, I often take quite shooty armies, but I still put down a bucket load of scatter, because it just makes the game so much more visibly tight and places to hide, and you really have to work for those clear shots then, and then you're so much more satisfying if you get them.
It's part of what really immerses you in the game as well, because you pretty much have to get into the game. You're peering through windows and looking over doors and right. Okay. I mean, when you move this guy, you just move in 1 cube, 2 cube, whatever. But when you get to the cube you're going for,
and you place him in it,
right, where exactly am I going to put him? Because that guy over there wants to shoot me. That guy over there wants to shoot me.
And also,
either of them get a clear shot.
And you move that model in there
next to something.
Yeah, and you move that model in there, but then it's my turn, and I will now purposely move to take advantage to get that clear shot. So that sort of interaction of how you're playing works with how I'm playing is really good, and that's quite novel. I think you don't get that in a lot of games. You're playing a standard sort of tabletop game. As long as I can see you, I can shoot you. There's no massive benefit from being able to see all of you. You might get some cover bonus and stuff like that, but in Deadzone, because the benefit is so vast, working for those clear shots is phenomenally important. Actually, really is.
Yeah, And when you know that's going to happen, you're sliding. You're using, right. I've got to use this bit of scatter and use this bit of wall over here, stick right there. And you look up at your opponent, and he's smiling, and you're like, oh, he already knows this is going to get him. It turns out he's got a more beast hiding around the corner that jumps in and just bites him to death anyway.
Yeah. Or you get up and work that clear shot, and you're like, yeah, great, fantastic. I've got all this. I'll throw some ammo in. So I've got 7 dice now, hitting on 5s, more 4s than you've ever seen. or you roll a reasonable success because his opposed rolls. He now just rolls his armor, and you're just like, I got 7 successes. Yes. You look at him and you go, you got 8.
Yeah, so
Sugar. Right, so yeah, so asking around,
we're not
Facebook.
missing playing at all.
Oh.
Thinking about, just dreaming Deadzone.
Dreaming about Deadzone. God, that's my commute to work. That is just thinking about Deadzone all the time. So Deadzone Fanatics, we talked about Mantic Games websites. Where else is there we could go?
Well, we've seen Blackjack Legacy doing some work on Deadzone recently. It's a YouTube channel. So
yes, that's
what they're doing there.
Andy
Spreading the
Burdiss.
word to a few more people.
Yeah, so Andy Burdiss has really helped to promote Deadzone News, and I'm sure if people are watching, a few of you may have even come, if anyone's watching, then you may even have come from Blackjack Legacy. So Andy has been promoting his challenge of it's a 150 point strike team, isn't it? Painted challenge, and there's a good 20% discount as well in May, I think, isn't it? Using his code, which you can find on his Facebook page.
Yep. On strike teams specifically, I think that is.
Yeah. And so I think that sort of, these sort of sporadic sort of things come around, but they're really good to incentivize people to work towards a target. And to be honest, painting a strike force of 150 points in a month is not too big a challenge at all for most people, I would suspect, because you're sort of talking somewhere between maybe 8 and 14 models, maybe something like that. Possibly
Depending on what faction you choose. Yeah.
Around
about that.
And really, as an outlay to play a game of that size, you're talking about They come in starters and booster kits from Mantic. So a starter kit will easily have enough to field well more than 150 points for whichever faction you've bought from. And with the booster, you've got all of the options available pretty much, apart from some later releases that aren't in those ones. So pretty much all the options that you have to build whichever faction takes your fancy. So yeah, really, really good initiative by Andy there. And yeah, we certainly, that has been an important part of seeing people come into the Deadzone Fanatics group, coming off of there and starting afresh, which is great to see.
Yep.
Go.
That reminds me, one more tip. There are no instructions provided with the starter boxes that Mantic put out, but there are some instructions for some of the kits on the website. The other thing to look up is check out the Deadzone 1 Kickstarter page if you can find it on Kickstarter, because one of the later updates had some instructions on how to assemble the original miniatures as well.
There's some in the files of someone's done some sort of expanded art, haven't they? Of some of the files on Deadzone Fanatics has got some of those as well, which is really helpful, particularly for like the Forge Fathers or something, and Enforcers, I think, where there's lots of different weapon options. Yeah, I think there's some good stuff out there. You just need to, sometimes you have to search for it just a little bit, but just ask in the forums if you want to.
Should we talk about the materials of the models a little bit? Just
if
briefly.
If you want.
Yeah. So I mean, Mantic do have some hard plastic sprues. So most of the factions have at least one. Some of them have 2 or 3.
It's only really the Rebs and the Marauders who don't have a hard plastic sprue, I think.
Yeah.
And the Nameless.
Yeah. But the Vermin have got 2 sprues. Plague have got 2 sprues. Enforcers have got 3 or 4. They've got 4 different sprues. Because they've got Enforcers, Pathfinders, Peacekeepers, and the Jet Bikes. Forge Fathers got at least 2.
Yeah, Forge Guard and Still Warriors.
Yep. And so on and so forth, other factions.
Yeah.
The other models, you'll find quite a lot of them made out of PVC type material. Whilst it may have changed a little bit from version 1 to version 2, just because plastic model making has improved over time, it's all basically a PVC type material.
Yeah. Sometimes termed restic, but that's not really a real word. It's just
because there's no resin in it. It's just plastic.
Yeah.
It's just the PVC style plastic that's evolved a little bit over the years. Usually the main tip with that is using a craft knife to scrape off the model lines isn't as effective with that plastic. It can be done, but sometimes it's a bit more difficult. It's more a case of trying to cut the model lines carefully.
Yeah, and so some of those older models are very good, but there's a little bit more prep perhaps on some of those.
But the advantage is if you dunk them in hot water, they become more pliable. So if you're struggling to get the arms into the sockets, something like, or things to line up properly, dunk them in some hot water, and while they're soft, hold the bits together, blow on it to cool it, and you'll find that they're then perfectly formed to.
Hot water or then cold water is the other way. So that's a sort of quick way. Hot water dunk, then a cold water dunk, and very effective. Yeah, very quick actually.
Just to make the plastic a little bit malleable and make things line up properly as a dry fit before you glue it. There are some metal models as well.
Mm-hmm. And some resin.
Some of the more recent ones, resin now. Yeah.
And I think you can see a big difference in the quality of the miniatures as they've evolved over the last few years, definitely. But it's not to say that the old ones are poor in any way. Far from it. They're just different, and the aesthetic may have evolved a little bit as well. Certainly, for say the Plague, it's evolved, got a little bit perhaps tidier in its aesthetic for the 3.8s particularly. But having said that, I run mixture of them, and they're fine. It's not a problem in the slightest.
And for me, some of those early models, they're the most iconic Deadzone. We've talked about the Stage 1A as being the face of Deadzone.
Yeah, definitely.
So don't neglect the older stuff. They're still really good models.
And just going back to other things again, that other resources available if you wanted to look. I'd forgotten to mention this when we were talking about a Mantic Games website. There are some other things there as well. So they've also released the Nexus Psi supplement, which is one of the early supplements for the second edition, which is still valid, although some of the profiles have been updated in the latest escalation, but not much actually.
No.
And that's also got some solo rules in it, which are quite pertinent, I think, to people at the minute when they're in this lockdown, which obviously from gaming point of view could last quite a bit longer than it does for real life, unfortunately, because I imagine social gatherings are going to be quite late on being removed.
There's a number of scenarios where the artificial stupidity rules control plague zombies coming as a horde against you, and it's pretty brutal. So it will keep you entertained for a while.
And it's good fun actually. It's a similar mechanic to if you ever played The Walking Dead or something like that. It's sort of an early style to sort of that, in that you make a lot of noise by shooting stuff, and lo and behold, the zombies hear that and respond. Totally get overwhelmed. And that's free. And of course, you don't need to use a zombie. Use whatever you want. If you want to use other models, then do. It's just designed for zombies. And there's another supplement as well. Plus, there's there's a fair number of books as well. There are 3 books, I think. One's an anthology. One's a short story that came with the Warpath Kickstarter, and another one is a actual book that you can buy. So there's a fair bit around, and some of it's quite cheap, particularly if you want a digital one. It's either free or it's like $1.99 or something like that. So there's quite a bit out there. Again, all for that further.
If you're one of those people who must have fluff and lore, it is out there. Believe me, if you read the first Strike novel, you will want to collect Vermin.
Of course. What you need.
The space rats.
Yeah. And I think what we haven't really touched on the lore. Maybe we'll do it in another one if you ever do another one of these. It is quite different, though. It's certainly not grim dark. If you come from a 40k world, basically everything's naff, right? It's just like born, live, kill stuff, die. But it's very much different from that. It's very much about a more realistic science fiction, but more realistic sort of world. Quite Blade Runner-y.
It's got a vibrancy to it, hasn't it?
Yeah. businesses making money, screwing over the little man, maybe some similarities with real life here. But, people are still trying to get ahead in life. People are still trying to make a living. They're still trying to develop what they need to develop, expand their horizons, expand their human sort of occupation of the universe or the galaxy. And all of that feels quite grounded in reality, actually, even though it's science fiction.
Yeah, the human element is much more relatable to what we understand of our world today.
Yeah, and when they meet,
and the arrival of the plague on the scene.
Oh gosh, yeah, timely. I'm waiting for the Asterians to arrive. It's all about balance. They're going to turn up in a minute with a whole bunch of daisies or something. But in parallels, I guess, to human history in our real life, when they meet alien races, and I use that term to mean sort of indigenous populations, perhaps, or something like that, they do one of two things. They either assimilate them, or they destroy them. And there are a few tangents there to sort of human history in the world. So I think that's quite sort of interesting in that it feels much more real than a dead emperor on a throne, for instance. But that is
and there's more of a sliding scale as well. In some instances the GCPS will go in because they want the resources of the world, and they just don't give a damn about what life is already there. But I mean, they may go to war against it, in which case a dead zone might occur, or a warpath fight. It may be they recruit them and just hire them as hired help, and basically pay them and incorporate them into their institution.
And I think the best example of that,
or they may just kill them.
Yeah, I think the best example of that sort of approach of GCPS there is the Sphere. So that's a race of sort of fish men, really, aren't they?
Sharks, the hammerhead sharks.
Yeah. And so the GCPS, that's the human corporations. It's a multitude of different corporations go onto their planet and think, we want, I can't remember what it was, a mineral in the water or something like that it is that they want. And so they drain the whole planet's seas from this aquatic race and just go, well, we bought the planet, we've got the rights. We do what we want with it. And you're just like, you're left with the mud, you've got the mud, we're left in the mud. Absolutely brilliant. Well, it's not brilliant, not in your sphere, of course.
No.
So that cheers them off. That's why they fight for the Rebs.
Yeah.
Going off.
There's no similarity to the history that. There's no similarity to the history of the British Empire whatsoever.
No. Skip over that. So we're waffling a bit here. So where else could we go? So yeah, loads of good stuff out there. Other resources are maybe some podcasts. So
yes, we like listening about Dead Zone. Well, I hear Wait If I do a podcast as well.
Oh, yeah, well done.
They don't talk about Dead Zone much.
Don't talk about Dead Zone much. But we do talk about a lot.
Better checking out is all the glorious back catalogue of the Frantic Gamers.
Jesus Christ! Honestly, why did I let you on it?
We talked a lot about Dead Zone.
You did. Shame it had no substance to it.
Hours at a time.
Very well. So Frantic Gamers, if you want to look back at some of the older stuff that they produced, the more recent stuff, 2019, I think was the last one. But if you want to check out some of their podcasts, you've got nothing else to do. It's locked down, isn't it? No, joke aside. So Frantic Gamers.
It's a valuable resource.
Yeah, Frantic Gamers got a good stuff there in their podcast. Wait to Fire, our podcast, and the Wait to Fire YouTube channel, of course. I'm sure you're looking at this. Lots of battle reports, which we certainly try and do our battle reports. Ian's on a few of those as well. Try and make them fun, but also you should purposefully describe what we do all the time, actually, and it's become sort of second nature to me now. Just so that you don't have to go right back to the very first one to see us learning it. You should be able to watch any of them and say, okay, I can see now why he's got this many dice. I can see now why he needs that to roll. And then you can see the pain as I fail to achieve my goals. So yeah, those are good places. Other podcast-wise,
there's a variety of those as well. So some of them are battle reports where you've set up playing a battle specifically with cameras. Some of the others, you've got videos of games being played at events, haven't you?
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, we did some recently actually from an event back in December time, which because of lockdown, I was finally able to edit and put up. So they're a bit more, I guess they're a bit more less refined because it's people are concentrating on their game rather than describing their game. But they do also show you how much fun it can be when you're playing games. I think that's the key thing from playing any Dead Zone game is that I've never come away from a Dead Zone game not having enjoyed it. I don't think, whether I've won or I've lost, to be honest. Sometimes I've rued my dice or something like that, but I've always enjoyed the games. Another good place would be Dead Zone podcast. So that's Rick Hall and Brian.
The other guy.
The other guy.
Brian Novak. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot his surname. That's what I was doing. So they're out of Michigan in the USA. So they have taken over from Rob and Jack, who were Canadians who were doing it for 100 episodes, 100 Dead Zone podcast episodes, which is impressive.
Well, I mean, they started podcasting right back before the Kickstarter came out, I think. I think they were podcasting during the first Kickstarter.
Yeah, and they've done phenomenal, particularly in that first edition sort of period. And now they've handed over to Brian and Rick, and they're sort of giving it a fresh look, really. And they're really good at bringing in and tying in those other aspects we talked about before, like Dreadball and Star Saga and stuff like that. So they make the whole world much more vibrant by talking about all the different aspects available, not just focusing on one thing. So they're a very good resource out there. And they produce a podcast really about once a month, aren't they? So really good. Yeah, so I think there's plenty of stuff out there. Oh, another place, Guerrilla Games. If you look at them on YouTube, they've done a couple of back reps from Dead Zone. There's a few other things around there as well. Family of Gamers 777.
I'll tell you what else we've seen. The Kings of War podcast, Countercharge. A lot of those boys are going in big on Dead Zone.
Kings of War's dead. Kings of War's dead, mate. Yeah.
Dead Zone's so hot right now. Dead Zone is so hot right now.
Hashtag.
More than Wingspan. Dead Zone is life.
Which you coined that. It's a global sensation, that hashtag. It really is.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's certainly plenty out there. It's a good time to be getting into Dead Zone. I think that, there's some exciting things coming in the future with the new models that were sort of which were revealed at the Mantic Virtual Open Day. The new Matsudan and the Asterion Spectra, a giant mech who really is quite big actually. Yeah, it looks huge. And I think
to give it no scale at all.
Yeah,
it's as big as me.
It's as tall as your head.
It's going to be taller than a cube, isn't it? It's about 11 centimeters.
Much taller than a cube, yeah.
It's going to stick out the top of cubes. Yeah, you're not going to be hiding that in buildings anytime soon. We'll be striding in between them.
But I think the Asterians is a faction that hasn't really had a new model for a little while, and so bringing them something that makes them play in a very different way. So the Matsudan are these giant lizards, whereas the rest of their army are effectively either space elves or robots. Really, I mean, they're not quite. But we'll go into that in another episode, maybe a bit more about what they are. But effectively, that's what they look like. Their aesthetic is robotic. To bring in these lizards in really does change up how their style of how they look. And then the mech is, we've had some really good models with the hard plastic marionettes for the Asterians, which are really, really nice. And the new Spectra mech just takes that up such a notch, but it keeps that aesthetic really sort of really good, and just like takes it up to level 10 or something like that. It really is fantastic. I'd be getting a couple, of course. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah. No.
I don't magnetize
it's
anything.
Dynamic.
So I need to get two.
It's dynamic. It's got a transparent blue shield cast in resin, so it's going to be crisp.
Yeah. So I think that's very exciting, and I think that there is still a lot of love for for Deadzone from Mantic, and I think we'll be seeing new stuff coming from them in the future to support Deadzone and keep bringing new products out for people to play. So it's certainly not although the game's been out a little while, it isn't a game that's dying. Far from it. It's actually a game that is continuing to offer things to new people, and I think it really is sitting.
I think
in quite
it's
a nice
really
place
the shining beacon in their Warpath IP universe, isn't it? So
definitely, yeah, definitely.
It's probably the strongest element, I'd say. So,
yeah, and it's so easy to get into and so easy to play that hopefully that continues for some time, and those people who are coming in new will find it enjoyable and continue to play it as well. I think that would be the real joy of it. So we've rambled on a fair bit there, haven't we, Ian?
A little bit. I think that was the intention, though.
Standard for us, to be honest. Anything we have missed or anything we want to talk about? I guess we haven't talked about why we like Deadzone, have we? Not really. We've obviously hinted that we do like it.
The immersion, the instant gratification.
That's what you're about, isn't it?
Like that. I mean, I love the system so much. I've started experimenting it with creating other little mini systems with it as well, just because that basics of the movement and the opposed dice rolls, it's just it's magical. And
the opposed dice rolls do give you a lot of interaction across the table, of course. So unlike some other games most other games, to be honest, where it's I have my turn, you have your turn, where effectively you can be quite passive during your opponent's turn. You may need to tell them the stats that you've got, but effectively you're not really doing anything.
It's a duel. In Deadzone, it's a duel. It's a dicing duel.
Yeah. So you're always concentrating.
Almost always rolling dice against each other.
Yeah.
When it comes to fighting.
Yeah. And you're also looking at what they could do, because it then flips back to you quite quickly. It's like, okay, so he hasn't done that, or he has done this, therefore I'll now do this. And that means your plan you have in your head, because it's a tight battlefield as well, shifts quite quickly. So I might start a round thinking I'm going to do this, and actually by the end of the round I didn't do anything of that because he did something different, and I have to react. So particularly as you're often fighting over the same objectives. So if he grabs something, so I'm playing you, so you grab an objective that I need, or maybe I don't need it, but I need to stop you scoring points for it. I now have to deal with that, whereas actually that wasn't my original plan. My original plan was to do something else, but now I have to deal with your situation, because if I don't, I'm losing points and I'm falling behind in the game.
Well, that brings us on to another important aspect, is how the game ends. Unlike a lot of games, this is not a case of playing 6 turns and seeing who's got the most objectives, who's killed the most things. The game ends when you reach a certain point. It's almost more like a penalty shootout, isn't it? If you used a bad analogy. If depending on the number of points you're playing,
that none of us know anything about.
It's a terrible idea. Yeah. If you're playing a 150-point game, the game ends at the end of a round when one person hits 16 points. If someone gets 16 points at the end of that round, the game is done, and
it ends at the end of the round.
Most number of points. Yeah.
So it doesn't end instantly. So depending on how you're playing, some people, particularly if it was a tournament, you might have the first person over wins. You might have the person over but with the most points wins. You might have, if both people go over, there's a draw actually. It varies depending on which TO. But because you've got the points out in front of you, you can see how close they are to achieving their goal. So that thing I mentioned before, you grab that last objective that I know will take you over and finish the game, and I'm maybe 2 points behind you. Well, I'm going to do everything I can now in my last activation to stop you going over the top, because that gives me a whole nother round then to maybe...
You can't leave it till the next turn if you don't do anything. You've got to sort it out now. Otherwise, the game ends and he's won.
So often the case for you, isn't it? The game ends and he's won. UK Deadzone Champion. So what can you say? I mean, the badge says it all, doesn't it?
And I frequently pop over to Spain to give them a thrashing as well. I should have been there 3 days ago, May the 11th was the
Really?
Madrid tournament. I should have been there.
The Mandrill Wars one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Going to go over there for a day to play Deadzone. Damn.
That says a lot about your social life, actually, doesn't it?
Just one more flight waiting to get refunded. I wonder if I'll ever see that money.
I doubt it. I don't think so.
I doubt as well.
Like another reason to cry. So yeah, I mean, I think you've seen how enthusiastic we both are about Deadzone. Hopefully this has been helpful to you, whether you're an older or a newer player of Deadzone. To be honest, it is a fantastic game. And I've enjoyed this. It's been nice, hasn't it? Chatting.
Yeah.
Even if it has been with you and you've been like with me, so terrifying. So yeah, I think we'll probably do one of these again, shall we?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, nothing else to do, to be honest, at the minute.
Should we tease something next time on Deadzone Pandemic? We'll talk about the Mantic blog, where they post things up every so often about all their game systems. We could talk.
Is that the best you can do? Is that the best you can? You're not going to entice people back with that.
I've got more. We could talk about the incoming Intel deck. Ooh.
Okay, anyway, maybe we'll talk about something better. Yeah, but either way.
We'll think of something by then.
Great. Well, thank you very much for putting up with us. Take care, everybody. See you later, Zor.
Bye.
It seemed to record pretty much straight away before.
Yep.
Nice brew, doesn't it? Tastes better, doesn't it?
It's just for TV. This mug's empty.
Of course.